Minister, the childcare sector in Ireland, it's under phenomenal pressure. They're bursting. There's massive pressure between shortage of places in one area, the cost of childcare putting dramatic pressure on parents, and also difficulties, serious challenges with getting staff. Minister, in particular for babies and toddlers, since the introduction of the ECCC scheme, there's an additional pressure on them there. Are you aware of it, and what action can be taken by you to address those issues?
Thank you, Deputy. The unprecedented increase in investment in childcare over the last 4 budgets has helped to double the capacity in the sector. We've doubled the ECHI free preschool scheme from 1 year to 2 years. We've also doubled the number of spaces for the age 0 to 3 group. Baby and toddler places have increased from some 13,700 in 2014 to over 31,000 in 2018. That's a rise of 128%. But clearly, we do need more capacity, and that's why I am continuing my intensive efforts. I am aware of the challenges providers face in offering services for babies and toddlers. The challenge is largely attributable to the cost of the higher staffing ratios required. My 2019 Early Years Capital Scheme has a primary focus then on building places for the under 3s. I've made €4 million available for this age group, and I expect to be announcing very soon the successful applicants and the creation then of 1,300 additional places before the year end. The National Childcare Scheme, to be introduced later this year, will also be a major incentive for providers to expand their capacity. The scheme will provide a progressive system of subsidies, starting with the highest subsidy rates for children under 1, that's up to €5.10 per hour, and the next highest subsidy for 1 and 2-year-olds, up to $4.35 per hour. I also want to encourage further capacity for the under 3s and older age groups in the child minding sector. And with this in mind, my department has recently recruited a national child minding coordinator and will soon recruit a team of 6 development officers around the country to support the registration of more child minders with TUSLA and thus enable them to access subsidies under the NCS. And my department is currently finalizing an action plan on child minding that will set out all of the steps that we will take to improve access to high quality and subsidized child minding services. And finally, I ensured that childcare would be identified as a strategic priority in the National Development Plan, where I secured €250 million for this purpose, much of which will be invested in additional capacity.
First supplementary.
Minister, since the introduction of the ECCC second year, and we welcome it, it's a positive, but its value is diminished if people are not able to access it and avail of it. And we're seeing that, according to, say, for example, Teresa Heaney, the CEO of Early Childhood Ireland, she feels that the second year, and she said, has cannibalised the earlier years, and that, especially in areas where there's population growth, and that it's more difficult to get space for the smaller children, and that we understand that, and we're hearing that parents are delaying going back to their paid employment, deferring that because they're not able to find a space. Minister, I take note of the fact that you have increased numbers of people there, but there's a huge turnover with one in four people leaving the sector as well. There's phenomenal turnover in it. What action is being taken to address those issues? Can you support the providers to ensure that they can retain their staff, and also to ensure that there is space available for the younger children, for the babies and for the toddlers, because of the particular issue there?
Response.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Just in relation to the main issue that you're raising there, and Teresa Heaney's comments, I think really that has to, the question question is, has the sector been replacing, baby rooms with maybe perhaps perceived more lucrative etchy rooms? And although I don't think there's any definitive evidence rather to support that assertion, we do have some anecdotal claims. And while there has been significant increase in etchy capacity in recent years, the data available from the earlier sector profile reports published by Pubble show that that's also been mirrored by an increase of capacity in the baby rooms. So I think that's the first thing I would say, and that's what I've tried to outline. Secondly, as I have indicated, we were aware that this challenging capacity in the under threes was coming. This is not new news to us, and so that is why I focused the amount of capital funding I received for 2019 on 0 to 3s, and I will be announcing those shortly, those grants, so that providers will have time during the summer months in order to ensure that they have that capacity.
Second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, the Pubble report indicates that only 19% of facilities have baby rooms, and that there are some 1,700 infants on waiting lists, almost half of the total number of people that are enrolled. So there's a particularly acute issue with the younger children, with babies and with toddlers. For example, we know that the situation where the ECCE room is going to be exempt from rates, whereas the baby room is not. My colleague Anne Rabbitte had a proposal, a bill brought forward for to equalise that, so that the childcare providers would be able to be exempt of rates altogether. Would you consider supporting measures such as that to level the playing field? Because not just the anecdotal information, but the figures are there as well from Pubble that the move is towards the ECCC room at the expense of the baby and wobbler rooms.
Deputy, as I'm indicating, we're aware, in terms of the required need to provide capital funding to increase the supply and the capacity for the under threes, and that's why I have moved the capital funding for 2019 in that direction. So that's the first thing to say, and so we're aware, of the statistics. Obviously, Pubble works with us very closely. Secondly, I'm also saying that when we implement fully the National Childcare Scheme in November, that there will be incentivizing of additional supports for childcare providers to build more under threes as well. So I think those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do in terms of supporting where the need now is coming, especially for baby rooms. Your question then in relation to rates, Minister Murphy is the one who has responsibility for rates. Now, he does know my views on this, and I've sent them to them in writing. I would like to see rates for services looked at and scrapped. But I think it is worth noting that community-run services and those providing free preschool only are not subject to rates. And what we're talking about here is that privately operated services are the ones who are, and so that's where the issues raised. But what is within my control, I think I am moving in order to ensure that we will have the capacity for under threes.